Hello friends! We're counting down to the holidays with 12 days of Christmas drawings. The goal of this mini-series is to kickstart a daily habit of painting in Procreate in a fun, low-pressure way. So I invite you to grab your pencil, get comfy, and draw along with me. Today we're going to be painting this seasonal postage stamp. Let's first create a new canvas, and I have mine set to 4,250 pixels wide by 3,200 pixels tall at 300 dpi. These are essentially the dimensions of the iPad, so the canvas should fit your screen. If you don't have enough storage on your iPad for a file this large, you can use the pre-formatted screen size canvas, which will give you the same aspect ratio, but at a smaller size and lower resolution. Here's a quick peek at my sketching process. I used the 6B pencil brush for this sketch, and you're welcome to draw this stamp in your own style, or you can skip the sketching process altogether because I created a template for you which you can use as a guide for the painting. There's a link in the description for the free download. And I just want to mention, with the downloads, you'll also receive a color palette which you can import directly into Procreate. The palette includes the base colors that I'll be using, but you'll often see me incorporate other colors as well. Feel free to add to or adjust the base palette as you see fit. Let's import the template. First, I'm going to turn off my sketch. Now, go to the Actions menu, tap Add, then Insert a Photo. Find the downloaded image in your camera roll and tap to import. Go to that template layer, tap the N, and change the blending mode to Multiply. Then reduce the opacity so the template is transparent. Tap on the background layer, choose the grayish blue from the palette, then create a new layer and drag it below the template layer. Then choose white from the palette panel. Next, we're going to choose our brush. This time, we're going to go down to the Comics set, and today we're going to be using Ambrose. We're going to ink the stamp shape, and to make this process easier, let's use the Symmetry tool. So let's go to the Actions menu, tap Canvas, tap on Drawing Guide, then tap Edit Drawing Guide. Down in this menu, you're going to change the mode from 2D Grid to Symmetry. And we're going to use this Vertical Symmetry Guide. That vertical line should line up perfectly with the center of the template. And when you go to that layer, it should be marked as Assisted, meaning that we're using the Drawing Assist feature in Symmetry mode. So when you start painting the stamp on one side of that center line, you'll see it mirrored on the other side. Continue painting the outline of the stamp until the shape is complete. Now when you get to the middle, it can sometimes be tricky to line up the two sides, so just take your time with that part. Once your outline is complete, turn the template off and zoom in to make sure that there are no gaps or openings in that outline. Fill in any open areas if you need to, and when you have a completely enclosed shape, drag the swatch into that shape to drop fill. Then you can turn the template back on. Next, we're going to add a drop shadow behind the stamp. So let's go to that stamp base layer, swipe left, then tap Duplicate. Let's name this one Shadow so it's not confusing. Now turn on Alpha Lock on that shadow layer. Change the color to Spruce from the palette. Tap on that layer again, then tap Fill Layer. Now we've got a green version of that stamp shape right below the white version. Make sure that you turn Alpha Lock off. Then go to the Transform tool and drag that green layer down and to the right so it's offset slightly. Now we're going to add a blur. Go to the Adjustments menu, tap Gaussian Blur, and just like we did in the candy cane tutorial, we're going to tap on the screen and drag your pencil to the right until that green layer starts to blur. Then tap on the Adjustments menu again to exit that mode. And there's our drop shadow. Now let's add a background color inside the stamp shape. Tap on the stamp base layer to select it, then create a new layer above. Choose the Icy Blue from the palette, and make sure the brush size is fairly small. This is about 7%. Then outline that rectangle. Turn off your template and check to make sure that the lines connect at all four corners. If there are any gaps, go ahead and fill them, and when you have a fully enclosed shape, drag the swatch to drop fill. Now let's paint the top of the ornament. Create a new layer, and then turn on Drawing Assist so it activates the symmetry feature on that layer. Then choose the spruce green from the palette. Again, we're going to draw on one side of the vertical guide, and we'll get that mirror image on the other side. Go ahead and drop fill that first shape, and then if you tap Continue Filling, you can tap this to fill as well. This area is quite small, so you might have to complete the fill manually. Now let's add a little shadow to the right side of that. Go to the layer with the ornament top, create a new layer above it, and make the new layer a clipping mask. Choose the holly green from the palette, and we're going to add this darker color along this edge. And you can make it curve a little towards the bottom if you'd like. Then you can drop the brush size down and add a line of shadow on the loop and along this inner edge as well. All right, let's work on the main part of the ornament. Create a new layer, and again, we're going to turn on Drawing Assist on that layer. Then change the color to the light green from the palette. And remember, the symmetry feature is activated because we have Drawing Assist turned on. Now, when you're drawing a curve on the symmetry line, sometimes it's easier to start the line on the opposite side of the guide so the connection lines up smoothly. Go ahead and drop fill once you've completed that shape. Now let's add the pattern. Create a new layer. Again, you're going to turn on Drawing Assist, and you're also going to make this new layer a clipping mask. Choose the icy blue from the palette, and we're going to start with this petal-like shape. Just take your time and follow those lines. When you're done with that, you can add these lines in the center. By the way, this brush is pressure sensitive, so if you start out with a very light touch, then add more pressure as the line continues, the size of the stroke will change. And that feature comes in really handy when drawing these tapered lines. Now, when you're using the symmetry feature, it can be tricky to draw directly on the center guide, but give it a try. If it's too challenging, you can temporarily turn off Drawing Assist, draw that line, and then turn it back on again. Let's do the semicircles next. Then these petal shapes at the bottom. And we'll ink this little star in the center as well. Now we can ink the rest of the design in a different color. Create a new layer, make this new layer a clipping mask, and also turn on Drawing Assist. Then let's change the color. I'm going to make a lighter and brighter version of the green we were just using. And we're going to use this second color to ink all the dots, as well as these horizontal lines. Now let's add a shadow along this side of the ornament. So first, we're going to turn off the template layer, then create a new layer and make it a clipping mask. We're not going to turn on Drawing Assist because we only want the shadow to appear on the right side. For now, choose any dark color. It doesn't matter what color it is because we'll change it later. You just need a color that's dark enough to see easily because we're going to draw a shadow shape all along the right side. I'm going to start here so it lines up with the shadow on the top section. Then follow the curve of this large section. Then do the same for these two smaller curves. Then we're going to fill that area with color and clean up the shape if you need to. Now go to that layer, turn on Alpha Lock, change the color to icy blue, Then go back to that layer and tap Fill Layer to change the color on the shape we just drew. Now you see why we didn't draw the shape in the icy blue, because it would have just blended into the background color, making it hard to see what we were doing. Okay, now we can tap the N on that layer and change the blending mode to multiply. And you can see how that has created a shadow on all the layers, the base layer and both pattern layers. All right, turn the template back on, create a new layer, and we're going to ink the ribbon next. Switch to the coral from the palette, and the ribbon is not symmetrical, so we don't need drawing assist for this. Just outline the entire shape, and as I mentioned in a previous video, it's much easier to manage curves if you draw one small section at a time. When your shape is complete, use Color Drop to fill. Create a new layer above the ribbon base layer and make it a clipping mask. Switch to the red from the palette, and we're going to add that red in these areas where there will be shadow. So fill the underside of the ribbon loops, then these sections where the ribbon curls. And this section will be red as well because of the way the ribbon flips. Now we're going to define those shadows a bit more. So create another layer, make it a clipping mask, and this time choose the deep red. We're just going to deepen the edges of those shadows with this darker color. We need some separation here, so we can add the deep red to this area as well. I'm going to turn off the template for a second to see how it looks, and I think we can add a couple highlights. So let's go to the coral color from the palette and make a lighter version. And we're going to do this on a new layer and make that new layer a clipping mask as well. Then add a couple lines of highlight to that ribbon. I think we actually need a little more separation between the knot and the bow. So let's go back to the red layer, switch back to the red color. I'm going to just add a couple areas of shadow there. Turn the template back on, and next we're going to tackle the text. Create a new layer at the top of all of the painting layers, just make sure it's below this template, and switch to the spruce green. First we'll start with the numbers, just follow the shapes as closely as possible. You might need to play around with the brush size to find a size that's easiest for you to control. Now if you're really comfortable with hand lettering or calligraphy, you're welcome to write this in a completely different style. Now just keep in mind that the pressure sensitivity on this brush might make it a little tricky to keep the lines straight, so just take your time with this. You can also use the eraser tool, also set to Ambrose, to clean things up if you need to. Now these letters are even smaller, so drop the brush size down, and we'll just use single strokes to write each letter. Because of the textured edge on this brush, we're not going to get really clean, crisp letters, but that's okay because it's meant to look like an imperfect stamp imprint. Rather than inking Happy Holidays twice, we can tap on the selection tool, select those words, then tap on the transform tool, swipe down with 3 fingers to pull up this menu, and tap duplicate. And you can see that it's been duplicated on another layer. Tap on the transform tool again to select the text on that new layer, then use the green handle to rotate the text and move it into position. Tap on the transform tool one more time to exit that mode. Then you can add those little dots to visually separate the two halves. When that's done, you can pinch those 2 layers together so that all the text is on one layer. Now let's add the postmark stamp. We're going to use the same spruce color, but we're going to change the brush. Let's go down to the creative set, and we're going to use this brush called Celery Top. Let's create a new layer for this. I've got the brush set to about 8%, and we're just going to follow each of those wavy lines. Now this brush is also very pressure sensitive, so keep in mind that the harder you press down, the wider the line is going to be. All right, so the last thing we need to do is add the wire that the ornament is hanging from. First, I'm going to turn off the drawing guide because we don't need that center line anymore. Then turn the template back on and create a new layer. We can keep the spruce color, but make sure to switch the brush back to Ambrose. If you draw a line freehand and keep your pencil down, it will snap to a perfectly straight line. We don't want that to be in front of the ribbon though. So take that layer and drag it all the way down below the ornament layers. So it should be right above the 3 stamp layers, but below the ornament. And that's it, we're all done. There's our seasonal postage stamp. I hope you had fun with this process, and I hope you'll join me for all 12 days of this holiday painting practice. There's a link in the description for where you can download the free drawing templates and get a peek at all the drawings we'll be creating for the next 12 days. I've also added a link to the 12 Days of Christmas Drawings playlist so you can easily find all the content in this series. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love if you'd give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.